The piercing screech of tires on asphalt jolted me awake. My head was throbbing, and the acrid smell of burning rubber filled my nostrils. As my vision cleared, I realized I was hanging upside down, seatbelt digging into my chest. "Oh God, Jennifer," I croaked, frisking to look at the passenger seat. Empty. That's when it all came flooding back. The argument. The cruel words. The moment my wife of 15 years opened the car door and hurled herself out onto the highway. I fumbled for the seatbelt release, crashing onto the roof of the overturned car. Glass crunched under my palms as I dragged myself out through the shattered window. "Jennifer!" I screamed, stumbling down the dark road. "Jennifer, where are you?" My foot caught on something soft. I looked down and saw her crumpled form, illuminated by the distant headlights of oncoming traffic. I fell to my knees beside her. "Baby. I'm so sorry. Please be okay. Please." Her eyes fluttered open, filled with a mixture of pain and contempt. "Go to hell, Tom," she whispered before losing consciousness. As sirens wailed in the distance, I cradled her broken body and wept. How had we come to this? 72 hours earlier. "Honey, I'm home," I called out, stepping into our suburban McMansion. The smell of lasagna wafted from the kitchen, making my mouth water. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, perfectly coiffed as always in her Lululemon yoga pants and cashmere sweater. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're late," she said flatly. "Again." I sighed, loosening my tie. "I know, I'm sorry." Johnson dumped a whole stack of files on my desk right as I was leaving. I couldn't say no. Jennifer's perfectly manicured nails tapped an impatient rhythm on the doorframe. "Of course you couldn't. Heaven forbid you stand up to anyone, Tom." I felt a familiar knot of anxiety falling in my stomach. "Can we not do this right now? I'm exhausted." She rolled her eyes. "Fine, dinner's getting cold anyway." We ate in tense silence, the only sound the scraping of forks against plates. I tried to think of something to say, anything to break the suffocating quiet. "So, how was your day?" I ventured. Jennifer set down her fork with exaggerated care. The usual. Pilates, lunch with the girls, a little shopping." "Not that you care." I flinched at the bitterness in her voice. "That's not fair." "Of course I care." She laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "Please, when's the last time you asked me anything about my life? When's the last time you even looked at me?" "I'm looking at you right now," I said weakly. "No, Tom. You're looking through me. You have been for years." I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. "What do you want from me, Jennifer? I work 60 hours a week to keep us in this house, to pay for your shopping trips and yoga classes. I'm doing my best here." Her eyes flashed dangerously. "Your best? Is that what you call this pathetic excuse for a marriage? Hey, it takes two to make a relationship work." I snapped, feeling my own anger rising. "When's the last time you showed any interest in my life and my job?" "Oh, that's rich," Jennifer sneered. "Like there's anything interesting about your sad little career. 15 years at the same company and you're still middle management. Face it, Tom. You're a loser." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I need some air." I stormed out onto the back patio, gulping in the cool night air. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Hey, it's me," I said when the line connected. "Yeah, it's happened again. I don't know how much more of this I can take." My sister Sarah's voice was sympathetic on the other end. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry. Have you thought any more about what we discussed?" I've ran a hand through my thinning hair. "I can't just leave Sarah. We've been together for so long." "And the printup?" "Screw the printup," Sarah said fiercely. "Your mental health is more important than money. You deserve to be happy, little brother." I sighed heavily. "I know. It's just I still love her. Or at least I love who she used to be. I keep hoping that woman will come back someday." Sarah's voice softened. "I know you do. But Tom, people change. Sometimes not for the better. You can't keep living like this." As if on cue, I heard the sliding glass door open behind me. "I've got to go," I muttered. "Thanks for listening." I turned to face Jennifer, steeling myself for another round of verbal sparring. But to my surprise, her eyes were red-rimmed and puffy. "Who were you talking to?" she asked, voice small and uncertain. "Just Sarah," I said cautiously, checking in on Mom. Jennifer nodded, wrapping her arms around herself. She suddenly looked very young and vulnerable. "Tom, I'm sorry. About what I said earlier, I didn't mean it." I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to. But we'd been down this road so many times before. "Yes, you did," I said quietly. "Maybe not all of it, but enough." She stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, feeling the familiar softness of her skin. "I know I've been awful lately," Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just so angry all the time. And scared." I frowned. "Scared of what?" She shrugged helplessly. "Of getting older. Of being irrelevant. When did we become so boring, Tom? When did we stop living?" I pulled her into a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. "I don't know, Jen. But we can change that. If you really want to." She nodded against my chest. "I do. I want us to be happy again. Like we used to be." I kissed the top of her head, hope blooming in my chest for the first time in years. "Okay, then let's make it happen. Starting now." We spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking for the first time in God knows how long. We laughed about old memories, cried over opportunities lost. And we made plans. "Let's take a trip," Jennifer suggested, eyes shining with excitement. "Somewhere we've never been. Just pack a bag and go." I grinned, caught up in her enthusiasm. "Why not? We've got the vacation time saved up. Where should we go?" She bit her lip, thinking. "How about Australia? We've always talked about seeing the Great Barrier Reef." "Australia it is," I agreed. "I'll call the travel agent first thing in the morning." As we fell asleep that night, tangled in each other's arms, I dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, we had turned a corner. The next morning I woke early and slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb Jennifer. I wanted to surprise her with breakfast in bed, something I hadn't done in years. As I waited for the coffee to brew, I scrolled through my emails. One from HR caught my eye. "Congratulations on your promotion to Senior Account Manager," it read. "Please see attached for details on your new salary and responsibilities." I stared at the screen in disbelief. I'd been passed over for this promotion twice before. What had changed? As I read through the details, violations slowly turned to dread. The new position came with a hefty pay raise, yes. But it also required extensive travel, at least 2 weeks out of every month. How could I tell Jennifer? We had just recommitted to working on our marriage, to spending more time together. This would undo all of that in an instant. I was still agonizing over it when Jennifer padded into the kitchen, yawning and stretching. "Morning, handsome," she said, pressing a kiss to my cheek. "You're up early." I forced a smile. "Yeah, I am. I was going to surprise you with breakfast." She peered at the untouched ingredients on the counter. "Looks like a pretty raw surprise so far," she teased. I laughed weakly. Got distracted by some work emails. Jennifer's smile faltered slightly. "On a Saturday? Can it wait?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you." I explained about the promotion, watching her face carefully for a reaction. To my surprise, she broke into a wide grin. "Tom, that's fantastic," she exclaimed. "I'm so proud of you. We should celebrate." I blinked, confused. "But what about the travel? I thought you'd be upset." Jennifer waved her hands dismissively. "Oh, we'll figure that out. This is a huge opportunity for you. For us." She wrapped her arms around my neck, eyes sparkling. "In fact, maybe I could come with you sometimes. I've always wanted to travel more." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. "Really? You'd want to do that?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. It'll be like a series of mini honeymoons. And when you're gone, I can focus on my own projects. Maybe even start that interior design business I've been talking about. I pulled her close, overwhelmed with love and gratitude. You're amazing, you know that? Jennifer smirked. I know. Now how about we work up an appetite for that breakfast? She led me back to the bedroom, both of us laughing like teenagers. For the first time in years I felt truly deeply happy. If only I had known how quickly it would all come crushing down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I threw myself into preparing for my new role at work, while Jennifer busied herself with plans for her business and our upcoming trip to Australia. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. We were talking more, laughing more. The bitter arguments that had become our norm were few and far between. But there was an undercurrent of tension that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Sometimes I'd catch Jennifer staring at me with an unreadable expression, or she'd make an offhand comment that felt loaded with hidden meaning. I tried to brush it off as paranoia. After all, we were both adjusting to big changes. It was natural for there to be some awkwardness. Then came the night that changed everything. I was working late, trying to tie up loose ends before our trip. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Don't forget, dinner with the Millers tonight. 8 p.m. Don't be late. I cast under my breath. I had completely forgotten about the dinner plans. Dancing at my watch, I saw it was already 7:30. I fired off a quick reply. On my way. So sorry, got caught up with work. Jennifer's response was immediate and icy. Of course you did, just like always. I felt a familiar knot of anxiety forming in my stomach as I rushed to pack up my things. By the time I made it home, it was nearly 8:30. I'd burst through the front door, apologies already on my lips. But the house was dark and silent. Jim? I called out. Are you here? No response. I pulled out my phone to call her, but it went straight to voicemail. That's when I saw the note on the kitchen counter. Went to dinner without you. Don't wait up. We need to talk when I get home. My heart sank. I knew that tone. Whatever progress we had made over the past few weeks was about to be undone. I poured myself a generous glass of whiskey and settled in to wait. It was after midnight when I heard the key in the lock. Jennifer stumbled in, clearly a few drinks past tipsy. Well, look who finally decided to show up. She slurred, tossing her purse onto the counter. I stood up slowly. Jen, I'm so sorry. I completely lost track of time at work. It won't happen again. She laughed bitterly. You're right. It won't. Because I'm done, Tom. I'm done pretending that anything has changed. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What are you talking about? Things have been so much better lately. Jennifer's eyes flashed with anger. Have they, or have we just been playing pretend? You're still the same workaholic who can't be bothered to remember a simple dinner date. I'm still a trophy wife with nothing better to do than wait around for you. I shook my head vehemently. That's not true. We've been connecting again, making plans. What about Australia? Your business ideas? She waved her hand dismissively. Pipe dreams? Face it, Tom. We're never going to change. We're stuck in this miserable cycle and I can't do it anymore. I felt panic rising in my chest. Jen, please. Let's talk about this when you're sober. We can work it out. There's nothing to work out, you spat. I want a divorce. The words hum in the air between us, heavy and final. I felt like I was drowning. You don't mean that, I whispered. You're just upset and drunk. In the morning. In the morning I'll be packing my bags, Jennifer interrupted. I'm staying with my sister for a while. I need space to figure things out. I reach for her desperately. Please don't do this. I love you, we can fix this. She jerked away from my touch. Love isn't enough, Tom. It never was. We spent the next few hours talking, but the conversation was far from healing. Every word Jennifer spoke dripped with venom, each sentence designed to cut me down further. You know what the problem is, Tom? She sneered, pacing our living room like a caged animal. You're weak, pathetic. You think groveling and making grand promises will fix everything, but it won't. It never does. I felt my jaw clench, anger bubbling up inside me. And what about you, Jennifer? You're so perfect, is that it? Never made a single mistake in your life. She laughed, a harsh, mirthless sound that sent chills down my spine. Oh, I've made plenty of mistakes. Maureen, you was the biggest one. The words hum in the air between us, heavy and final. In that moment something inside me snapped. All the years of belittlement, of walking on eggshells, of trying to please someone who could never be satisfied. It all came crushing down. You want out? I said, my voice low and dangerous. Fine, let's end this farce right now. Jennifer's eyes widened, clearly not expecting me to call her bluff. Daddy, what do you mean? I strode to the closet, yanking out our coats. I mean, let's go. Right now. To a lawyer. We'll sign the divorce papers tonight. Don't be ridiculous, she scoffed. It's nearly midnight. No lawyer's office is open. I tossed her coat at her. Then we'll drive until we find one, that is. I'm done playing games, Jennifer. You want a divorce, you've got it. For a moment, fear flashed across her face. But quickly her trademark sneer returned. Fine, she spat, shrugging on her coat. Let's go. We stormed out to the car, the tension between us thick enough to cut with a knife. I peeled out of the driveway, tires squealing on the asphalt. We drove in silence for what felt like hours, the glow of the dashboard the only light in the oppressive darkness. I could feel Jennifer's eyes on me, but I kept my gaze fixed firmly on the road ahead. Finally she spoke, her voice uncharacteristically small. Tom, maybe we should. Save it, I interrupted, gripping the steering wheel tighter. You said more than enough. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her reach for the door handle. What are you doing? I demanded. Stopping this insanity, she replied. And before I could react, she had wrenched the door open. Time seemed to slow down. I saw Jennifer's body silhouetted against the night sky as she hurled herself from the moving car. I heard myself scream, felt my foot slam on the brakes. The car fishtailed, tires screeching as we spun out of control. There was a sickening crunch of metal, a shower of glass, and then darkness. When I came to, I was hanging upside down, seatbelt digging into my chest. The events leading up to the crash came flooding back in a rush of adrenaline and fear. Jennifer, I croaked, twisting to look at the passenger seat. Empty. I fumbled for the seatbelt release, crushing onto the roof of the overturned car. Glass crunched under my palms as I dragged myself out through the shattered window. Jennifer. I screamed again, stumbling down the dark road. Jennifer, where are you? My foot caught on something soft. I looked down and saw her crumpled form, illuminated by the distant headlights of oncoming traffic. I fell to my knees beside her, my heart pounding in my ears. Oh God, Jen, what have you done? Her eyes fluttered open, filled with a mixture of pain and something else, regret, fear. I couldn't tell. Tom, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Cher, I soothed, cradling her head gently. Don't try to talk, help is coming. As if on cue, I heard the wail of sirens in the distance. Jennifer's eyes closed again, her breathing shallow and labored. The next few hours passed in a blur of flashing lights, urgent voices, and sterile hospital corridors. I found myself in a hard plastic chair, staring blankly at the wall as I waited for news. A gray-faced doctor approached, clipboard in hand. Mr. Harris, your wife is out of surgery. She's stable, but... I listened mumbly as he detailed Jennifer's injuries. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, possible brain damage. They wouldn't know the full extent until she woke up. If she woke up. As I sat by Jennifer's bedside in the ICU, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, I was overwhelmed by a maelstrom of emotions. Anger at her reckless action, guilt for my part in pushing her to it, fear of what the future might hold. Days turned into weeks. Jennifer remained in a coma, showing little signs of improvement. I practically lived at the hospital, only leaving to shower and change clothes. It was during one of these brief trips home that I made a startling discovery. As I was gathering fresh clothes, I knocked over a stack of papers on Jennifer's desk. Bending to pick them up, a familiar name caught my eye. Michael Reeves. I muttered, scanning the document. It was an email detailing what? Secret rendezvous. Financial transactions. With shaking hands, I began to dig through the rest of the papers. What I found made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing large, unexplained withdrawals. Emails arranging clandestine meetings. And worst of all, a half-written letter to a divorce lawyer dated months before our fateful argument. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Jennifer had been planning to leave me for months. The fights, the cruelty, the constant belittlement. It had all been a calculated move to push me away, to make me the bad guy in our inevitable split. I'm Michael Reeves. I recognized the name now. He was a client at her real estate firm. A wealthy widower who had been sniffing around Jennifer for years. I sank to the floor, my mind reeling. All this time, I'd been blaming myself for our failing marriage. Thinking if I just tried harder, loved more, forgave quicker, we could make it work. But it had all been a lie. A carefully orchestrated performance designed to absolve Jennifer of guilt while she planned her escape. As the initial shock wore off, a new emotion began to take hold. Rage, pure, unadulterated fury at the years of manipulation and mislighting I'd endured. I gathered up all the evidence I could find, shoving it into a briefcase. Then I drove back to the hospital, my mind racing with possibilities. Jennifer lay there, pale and still, machines beeping softly around her. I stood at the foot of her bed, staring at the woman I thought I knew. "You really did a number on me, didn't you?" I said softly, more to myself than to her. Had me convinced I was the problem all along. I pulled up a chair, setting in for a long night. "Well, Jennifer, I think it's time we had a little chat. About trust, about loyalty, about consequences." As I began to lay out my plans that would ensure Jennifer's comfortable life came crashing down around her, coma or no coma. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my life. And God help anyone who tried to stand in my way, especially the woman lying unconscious before me. The next morning I met with Jennifer's doctors. They were cautiously optimistic about her prognosis, but warned that recovery would be a long, difficult process. "She'll need extensive physical therapy," Dr. Pirtle explained, "and there's a possibility of cognitive impairment. We won't know the full extent until she regains consciousness." I nodded solemnly, playing the part of the devoted husband. "Whatever it takes, doctor. I'll be here every step of the way." As soon as I left the hospital, I headed straight for my lawyer's office. Richard had been a friend for years, but I'd never seen him look so shocked as when I laid out the evidence of Jennifer's deception. "Jesus, Tom," he breathed, poring over the documents. I don't even know what to say." I leaned forward, my voice hard. "Say you'll help me make her pay." Richard looked up, concern etched on his face. "Tom, I know you're hurting, but revenge isn't the answer. Let's focus on protecting your assets, filing for divorce." "No," I cut him off. "I didn't want a divorce. Not yet. I want to dismantle her life piece by piece, just like she tried to do to me. And I need your help to do it legally." He sighed heavily. "I don't like this, Tom, but I'll see what I can do." Over the next few weeks, as Jennifer remained unconscious, I set my plan in motion. First, I used her power of attorney to freeze all our joint accounts and transfer the bulk of our assets into my name. Then I reached out to her real estate firm. "I'm afraid Jennifer won't be returning to work," I told her boss, my voice dripping with false regret. "In fact, given her condition, I think it's best if she retires completely." Next came the calls to our friends and family. I spun a tale of Jennifer's secret addiction, her reckless behavior that led to the accident. It wasn't entirely a lie. She had been reckless, just not in the way I implied. "I'm standing by her. I would say the picture of a devoted spouse. But I just don't know if she'll ever be the same." Slowly but surely, Jennifer's carefully cultivated image began to crumble. Her high society friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with scandal. Her family, long put off by her coldness, accepted my version of events without question. And Michael Reeves. I made sure he got an anonymous tip about Jennifer's addiction and the financial mess she was in. He disappeared so fast it was almost comical. Through it all, I maintained my vigil at Jennifer's bedside. To the outside world, I was the epitome of a loving, worried husband. But in the quiet hours of the night, as the machines beeped steadily around us, I would lean in close and whisper all that I had discovered, all that I had done. "You thought you were so clever," I would murmur, stroking her limp hand. "But you underestimated me, Jen. Just like you always did." It was during one of these one-sided conversations that I felt her fingers twitch in mine. My heart leaped into my throat as her eyelids fluttered, then slowly opened. "Tom," she croaked, her voice hoarse from disuse. "What? Where am I?" I plastered on a worried smile, squeezing her hand gently. "You're in the hospital, sweetheart. There was an accident. You've been in a coma for almost 2 months." Confusion clouded her features. "An accident? I can't remember." My pulse quickened. Could it be possible? I chose my next words carefully. "What's the last thing you do remember, Jen?" She frowned, concentrating hard. "We were arguing in the car. Everything after that is a blur." I fought to keep my expression neutral, even as triumph surged through me. Jennifer had no memory of her plans, her betrayal. She was quite literally a blank slate. "That's right," I said soothingly. "We had a fight. But it's okay now. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Oh Tom, I'm so sorry. For whatever I said, whatever I did. Can you forgive me?" I leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Of course, my love. All is forgiven." As I held her, my mind raced with possibilities. Jennifer's memory loss was an unexpected gift. A chance to reshape our narrative, to mold her into the wife I had always wanted. Gone was the cold, manipulative woman who had planned to leave me. In her place was a vulnerable, dependent version of Jennifer, who looked at me with nothing but love and gratitude. I knew it was wrong. Knew that I was no better than she had been, manipulating and gaslighting for my own benefit. But after years of emotional abuse, of feeling small and worthless, I couldn't bring myself to care. This was my chance at revenge, at reclaiming the power in our relationship. And I was going to take it, consequences be damned. As Jennifer drifted back to sleep, exhausted from our brief interaction, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. The game had changed, but the endgame remained the same. I would rebuild Jennifer in my own image, make her dependent on me in every way. And when the time was right, when I had extracted every ounce of satisfaction from this new dynamic, I would reveal the truth. I would watch as her carefully reconstructed world came crushing down around her, just as she had once planned to do to me. "Sleep well, my love," I whispered, a note of steel beneath the tenderness. "Tomorrow, we begin our new life together." As I settled back into my chair, I felt a twinge of guilt. Was I really any better than Jennifer had been? Was I justified in my actions, or had I become the very thing I despise? But then I remembered the years of subtle cruelty, of constant belittlement. I thought of the evidence I had found, the cold, calculated plan to discard me like yesterday's trash. No, I decided this wasn't about being better. This was about survival, about finally taking control of my own life. And if that made me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. I was done being the victim.